Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It's 9 o'clock, which means it's time for another Talk Magic. And today I've got what I think is going to be the most interesting video I've ever done on this channel, the most interesting interview, because I'm interviewing somebody that I've interviewed before. About 4 or 5 years ago, when this channel first started, one of the first people I interviewed was Luke Oseland. And I interviewed him when he was very, very young. He was only interested in creating. He had a membership, which was a killer membership, and he was kind of releasing social media content. At the time, there were a lot of social media magicians on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram that were literally making a name for themselves using the content that Luke had created. And he'd literally just released the trick to Murphy's. It was his first kind of release. And I interviewed him about his creative process. By the way, if you want to go and check that interview out, it's a great interview if you really want to understand how to actually create magic and how to actually do social media magic properly. That was an amazing interview. Now, I'm interviewing Luke on the channel again now because in the last 5 years, his career has completely switched. At the time, he was not interested in performing, but now he's actually probably one of the biggest kept secrets in magic because he's doing hundreds of shows globally, all around the world, selling out venues, selling out theaters. Literally, he is part of the biggest show at the Fringe, the most popular magic show at the Fringe Festival at the Edinburgh Fringe, which is a huge deal. And he continues to perform at a very high level, as well as continuing to create magic. And it's really interesting that you see this, and it's only a few years after me interviewing him, going, "Well, you know what? I don't want to be a performer." I'm very interested to see what's gone on here, and more importantly, what we can learn about how we can actually get to where Luke is as well. He's very busy, but I've managed to tie him down. I am here with one of the most successful magicians in the world right now, the one and only Luke Oseland. How you doing, Luke?
Hello, hello. How's it going? I'm
I'm
great, thank you. How are you?
I'm brilliant. Thank you for finding the time to do this. I know you squeeze me in between jetting off somewhere else, comedy clubs, like you're performing all of the time at the moment. So thanks for squeezing me in. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, as much as I can. No worries. I mean, we were both really busy, which is good. You know, it's a good problem to have. But we've managed to find the time, which is lovely. Um,
And and
even though
what's
even though it's a Saturday night and I'm inside on my own right now, but you know, it's good.
well, it's not very often that you're not performing on a Saturday night, I imagine. I imagine this is kind of a rare thing for you.
Yeah, I mean, my work schedule is really weird. I have very, very busy months. Like I have August, July, December is very busy, of course, as it is for everyone. And then like February and March is also very busy for us. And then there's sometimes like January and Feb is still very busy, but no, I have nights off, which is nice. And most of the gigs that I do, um, I'd say it's probably about two-thirds the gigs that we put on ourselves, like they're shows that we produce and we publish, as opposed to the other third being like gigs I get booked for. But yeah, I'm currently sort of off and working on products at the minute, as you know,
And we're going
before
to get to
obviously going off
that.
to Australia. Yeah.
And that's what I want to talk to you about because, like I referenced in the intro, I spoke to you, must be 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And at that period in your life, you had no interest in performing whatsoever. You were kind of, I remember asking you, what did you want to do in the future? And I seem to remember you saying that you were thinking about being a consultant and you wanted to kind of get into a
Yeah.
consultancy role, which I know that you have done within your career. I know you have consulted, but no point did you say you wanted to be a performer, especially performing the type of events that you do, because let's be honest, most people that become performers in this industry, they're doing weddings, they're doing close-up gigs, they're doing restaurants, they're going and doing, which is nothing wrong with that, but that's what
Yeah.
probably 90% of people do when they become a pro. You have completely done a 180 in terms of what you wanted to achieve. And I'd say pretty much all of your work is on stage and on big stages as well. So going from somebody who had no intention of performing, no real desire to perform, to somebody who's headlining huge shows at the biggest fringe festivals around the world, that's a bit of a change, right?
Yeah, it was a bit of a change. I think I absolutely loved creating and consulting and working on products and stuff like that. And at the time, I think when you interviewed me, I might have still been working for Dynamo at the time.
I
as one of
think
the consultants on the
I
team.
would say let's pick it up just before there.
Yeah.
Because when I interviewed you, you didn't mention Dynamo on camera, but you said that you were
Okay.
going to start working with him. So I think it was at the beginning of that journey, but you
Interesting.
said you couldn't really talk about it. So it was just before that.
Okay. So yeah, so it's pretty, yeah, either just before or sort of the start of the pandemic then. Because I worked on his TV show and I wasn't allowed to talk about that at the time. And then I went on and did some social media stuff with him as well. And I loved it. It was great. But that work with him, anyways, it went to an end during a pandemic. And then I set up a group chat where I'd sell tricks to people, like just on a group chat, I'd make these gimmicks and sell them to people, which was quite a nice thing in a pandemic. I set up the membership, which was great. I ran that for over 2 years. It's still a thing, but it's not a membership anymore. You just buy it as a one-time fee on my website. But it's good. There's like 60 tricks on there if anyone wants to check it
And
out.
just without dwelling too much on that, some of the tricks on that membership are amazing. Like I remember
Yeah,
the
there's some really
sauce
fun
packet
stuff.
thing is one of my favorite things that I've seen on social media ever. Like it's just killer. Like the stuff that
Yeah, so there's
you
some
put on
fun
there is
stuff on
brilliant.
there. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's some really fun stuff on there. But so I did that for a while, and then I kind of put Visual Magic Store, my company, I kind of put it on the back burner a bit because I think I'd never been into performing, never in my life. I did, maybe one thing a month at the Young Magicians Club growing up. I entered the competition, um, but I never really liked the idea of performing, and I especially didn't like the idea of performing at a restaurant or a wedding where people didn't know you were going to be there, where you had to
Yeah.
approach a table. Because I wasn't the most confident kid. Like now, don't get me wrong, I still do close-up gigs. I will do close-up gigs now because I find them a lot easier than I did at the time. But at the time, I really didn't enjoy it. I hated the idea of walking up to a table with people you didn't know. But the idea of people coming to my show or me doing a set at a comedy club, that made sense to me because it's a captive audience. I can do what I want for 10 minutes instead of doing the same 10 minutes at every table. So I really liked the idea of that. And then it was Ed Hilsom that convinced me to do. Ed Hilsom and Harry De Cruz, I think, had just done it as well. They convinced me to go to the Fringe just to visit it and see if I liked it. And I went there, and I felt like this whole world was shown to me of all these amazing people that were just taking their shows that they'd worked on for a year or something and just sort of giving it a go. Like everyone was just doing what they wanted on stage, which was amazing to me. And Ed Hilson then convinced me, and the Cruise, and Richard Young as well, and some others. They convinced me to actually apply for a fringe show. So I did that. I had my first fringe show, which would have been 4 years ago or something, which is crazy. Yeah, I've done four now, so I'm coming up to my fifth one, which is crazy. Yeah, so I did that, and it was great, and I absolutely fell in love with performing. Looking back at it, the show was probably very bad, but I don't really remember the show, but I do remember the feeling of being on stage in front of 100 people or whatever, and I absolutely loved it.
Very
I became
quickly on
obsessed.
that, can I
Yeah,
just ask you one question?
yeah,
So the first Fringe show that you did, obviously you became known as a performer in your early days, very much like there was a drunk magic kind of brand to you, wasn't there? Was that
yeah,
did that start right at that first Fringe show? I remember people talking about it at Blackpool. I don't know how something. I don't know if it got on Beat the Wand or something. I don't know, but I remember people saying, "Ah, there's this guy who like performs drunk on stage," and I'm like, "What?" Like Luke Oseland. I'm like, "Hang on a minute, that's the kid that creates that." No, you got the wrong guy. No, 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 no. He
yeah.
goes on stage and I'm like, what are you talking about? And I couldn't. I'd interviewed you, and then people were telling me like a year later, there's like this. Oh, it's the best concept I've ever seen, and I'm like, are we talking about the same person here? What?
I think it's really hard. So that was the first thing I did was a show called Drunk Magic, and the idea was I love the idea of shitface Shakespeare, of like one cast member getting drunk and trying to do a show. And I thought, wouldn't it be funny if I just got a bit drunk and tried doing a show? And I think that this did a few things for me. Firstly, I wasn't the most confident performer, but having a few drinks before a show made me a lot more confident.
Yeah.
It also there was an element of writing about what you know, and at the time I was 18, 19, going to the pub with my friends. So everything I was sort of all these ideas I was having were the things with what was around me. So things with bottles and glasses and stuff like that. So so I started off doing that thing just to sort of get my confidence and cut my teeth a bit. But towards the end of the fringe, I realized like, why am I doing it? Why am I getting drunk? It's so unnecessary. I don't want to drink right now. And yet I'm doing it just to do a show night after night for a month, which is, you know, my liver was not happy after that. Um, but I did it and it was great. And it was a really nice first show. And then the next year I did a different solo show called Immature Magic. And that was very much, I don't know if it was better. I think theatrically and the narrative of it was better. I think the magic in it was probably worse. I don't think there wasn't a lot of magic in it from memory. There was only 3 or 4 tricks. The majority of it was stand up. I did that. It got some pretty bad reviews, which is fair enough because it wasn't a great show. But you know, I cut my teeth. But we did Insane Magic that year for the first time, which is what I do with Cameron Gibson and Elliot Bibby. And that show just hit. Like it
Okay,
was one of those things. It just hit.
I want to talk all about this. I'm not going to skip through this because this is such an interesting story for me. So, first question, you went from Fringe one year to Fringe next year. Like, what happened in that year? Because in the first year, you did Drunk Magic, you went to the Fringe, you bit the bug, you realized that you really like this stuff. But then the Fringe is over. Like, what did you do at that point? Were you getting gigs? Like, were you still advertising yourself as like somebody who does drunk stand up? Like, did you go back to creating? What happened in that year between the first Fringe show and the second Fringe show?
Not much, to be honest. I moved to Edinburgh that year. Straight after the Fringe, I just decided I was going to stay there because I love the city so much, and I wanted to move out. I hadn't started performing yet, so I thought, well, either I could move into London and do what everyone does and just start gigging. But there's so many magicians there, whereas there's a lot of magicians up here, but not as many as there are in London. So I thought, well, maybe I could be a sort of bigger fish in a smaller pond. So I decided to move to Edinburgh. Um, and I already had met quite a few people during the Fringe. Elliot and Cameron, for example, I'd met, and we decided that year, my first Fringe I ever did, we decided we were going to do Insane Magic the next year. We just liked the idea of it. I had this sort of title of a show like brewing in the back of my head, and it actually stemmed because we went to go see a show together, which was another group magic show, which I won't mention, and it wasn't very good. And we came out of it really kind of uninspired, like really, really hating how hack it all was. And the audience were lapping it up and we were like, this is not good. There wasn't good magic in it. The jokes were corny. We could do it so much better. And we literally sat around a barrel drinking pints. And we all sort of just said, why don't we do it? Why don't we do it next year? Let's make a show that we're all proud of instead of, because, you know, we all had a solo show that year. And the shows went well. They all went well, but none of them were really like majorly successful, I would say. So we thought, why don't we all do one show together? And so that's what we did. We collected our resources, which is a really great thing you can do because I know quite a lot about method and about social media. Cameron is amazing at doing tech stuff. So I'd never even seen QLab in my life before I met him, which is a programming software for people that don't know. And he's amazing at like, you know, doing all this sort of sound stuff. And I'd never even considered using tech in a way that we do now back then. And then Elliot is great at scripting and also method. And we're all great at sort of building stuff. And so we pulled our resources of what we know about magic. And also it's very expensive to do a fringe show. So we could all sort of invest and then get a slightly bigger venue the next year. So we'd all been doing these 40, 50 seaters, and we were then able to do a 130 seater in a paid venue, in actually quite a nice venue as well. But that year between those two fringes, we were really just working on that show. I was still putting out magic on the side to pay my rent and my bills. I had the membership going as well at the time. The occasional thing, I was doing quite a lot of social media stuff at that time as well. And just the occasional, I did a lot of stand-up nights as well. I think I did, between that time, I think I did 30 or 40, like just random stand-up gigs, and whether I was doing magic or just straight stand-up. I just did it as much as I could. So, you know, 2-3 times a week, just because I wanted to keep being on stage and put minutes towards my stage time, I guess. So yeah, it was a bit of a weird year trying to get into performing, gigging wherever I could. I was gigging anywhere and everywhere, doing close up and stage, so comedy clubs. I was also gigging in like nightclubs, like I was working the queues in nightclubs and just trying to cut my teeth. And it felt really weird because everyone in the magic industry knew me, but I was now trying to be a performer. So I felt like, well, I've got to kind of start at the bottom and then work my way up as
Yeah.
everyone does. So I was doing the same stuff you'd expect from anyone trying to get into performing.
Wow, that's really interesting. And so you then obviously went to the second year, and you said that you pulled resources to put on a show together, but at the same time, you also said you had your own solo show. What was the reasoning behind that?
I think it's important to always, with all of us, I think we sometimes forget about it sometimes. It's important to keep our solo careers going as well.
Yeah.
I think Insane Magic is amazing and it's given us so many amazing things, but we work so hard on it. And, something could happen one day where it would, for whatever reason, it just falls apart. And then suddenly we'd have to start from the ground again. So I think it's important we all do our solo stuff. I did a solo show last year because I'd taken a year off. This year I'm taking another year off because we just do too much at the Fringe now that I need to really almost spend a year writing a new show before I take it. Like last year, I did a solo show and Insane, and I was so stressed out. I ended up giving myself a migraine before getting on stage, which was
Oh my God.
horrible, and having to perform through it, um, which was a nightmare. But my friends were very supportive with it at the time. Um, yeah, it's. I think it's just important to keep that solo career going as well. Like, we all do our own solo stuff. Elliot does a lot of weddings. Me and Cam do ships. I do a lot of comedy clubs. We just do whatever we can, really.
That's perfect. So, so the three of you perform at the first Fringe. It's very, very
Yeah,
successful.
yeah, we did great. We sold out.
Yeah, so more successful than you probably thought. Did you expect to sell out, or was it just like, no, this is even better than we thought?
No, not at all. I remember the first time, Cameron, there's a ticketing platform called Red 61, which every Fringe and lots of festivals use to check ticket sales. And we didn't check our ticket sales kind of on purpose until like June. So maybe a month before the Fringe started. And we checked it and we saw that we'd sold 50% of our tickets already.
Wow.
And we were like, surely this is wrong. So we emailed the Fringe saying, hey, we think there's been a problem. Like, we thought they'd added an extra zero by accident because this has never happened to any of us. And I think the branding, the title of the show and the branding is so strong. You're getting three for the price of one. We're big, firm believers in do what it says on the tin. So we call our show Insane Magic. You're going to see a fast-paced magic show. It's going to be insane. Um, and people just liked it and they understood what it was. So I think we realized in that moment we've created a really good product.
Mm, wow. So what was the plan coming out of that Fringe then? You've hit almost captured lightning in a bottle. You've come up with this amazing brand. Obviously, we now know that Insane Magic travels all over the world, but did you have a plan coming in? Because you didn't realize it was going to be that successful, did you? Were you like, right, okay, where are we going to take this now? What are we going to do now?
Yeah, I think we maybe gave ourselves a bit of false hope because yes, it went really well, but doing really well at the Fringe is very different to doing well when you're touring or something. It was still very early days. The show was good, but it wasn't amazing. Like now, if you see our show, Magicians or Layman, you'll be like, oh, like it's an amazing show.
Yeah,
And I
I
think
saw it at the
I'm so
Newcastle
proud of our
Magic.
show.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a great show. Fantastic show.
It's it's very refreshing as well. It's very fast paced. We're all quite likable on stage. But maybe the show wasn't there at the time. And we weren't sure what the direction of the show is. We've always wanted to tour, like that's just something we want to do. And we did the occasional touring show, but nothing major. We started writing next year's show the week after. We started working on ideas for it. So we were just like grinding that out. We wanted to take it to Australia. That was a big thing we wanted to do. Unfortunately, we didn't get a venue. I still went out to Australia just to sort of look at it and check out the venues and stuff. And then we managed to bring it back the following year, which was great. But yeah, we do. I don't know. We sort of just take each day as it comes. We've got really big plans with Insane. We'd love to do a full theatre tour. We'd love to, one day be on a scale where we're not quite the Alec brothers, but we'd
Yeah.
love to do. I think eventually I'm hoping it'll be a similar level to sort of Champions of Magic in the States, right? It'd be amazing to have a touring show like that, with that kind of scale. And we're getting there, but these things take time. We're 3 years in or something, and the show is growing bigger than we could ever dream of, which is great. And we've just booked our venue for next Edinburgh Fringe. We're going back out to Australia, so we'll see what happens.
Well, where did Australia come into this? Because obviously you said that you spent the first year that Insane were on the Fringe, you really focused on the next year. Obviously, we know that there's a lot of, one of the reasons that a lot of people go to the Fringe Festival, especially Edinburgh Fringe, is to be noticed by producers and management companies and so on and so forth. How did that side of things work for you? How did you end up going to Australia and getting all the other gigs that we now know that you do regularly?
So I've always wanted to go to Australia. I've always liked the idea of going there. I actually got offered a gig from Dom Chambers, which was he has an 18 plus magic show called The Purple Rabbit, which he wrote with FISM champion Simon Coronel. It's directed by a fantastic circus company in Australia, and it was on a ship. And Dom asked if I wanted to go out and do his part in the show. So I went out and I did that for 3 months. And then after that, I did a solo show at the Adelaide Fringe in Australia, which is the second biggest arts festival in the world after the Edinburgh Fringe. It's much, much smaller, but it is the second biggest fringe festival in the world. I did that for a bit, fell in love with Australia and the fringe over there. I think it's one of those things where everyone I ever meet, I will always tell them if they've never been, you should go to Edinburgh Fringe. You can't quite tell people to go to Adelaide because it's so far away, but
Yeah.
it's my favorite festival. It's so warm up there. Everyone's happy. Everyone's smiling. The shows are amazing there, and the sort of standard of show, like the entry level of show, is much higher as well because you have to get to Australia to do it. So you have that investment going out there. Um, so yeah, so I did Purple Rabbit on the ships for about 9 months. I did the Adelaide Fringe once on my own, and then the next year we chatted to a few companies, and the company which directed the show was also running a venue in Australia, so we got in that way. Uh, and yeah, last year we did 35 shows in Australia, and this year we're going back to do the same thing again.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's fantastic. I mean, blown away. And this is one of the reasons why, one of the questions I get on this channel all the time is, don't really see much of Luke Oseland anymore. I don't think people realize just how many shows you do or just how busy you are as a performer now. I think that a lot of people they just kind of like wonder where you are. Do you know what I mean? And I think this is showing people, you can be really busy in this industry without actually being visible in the magic community, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think not saying that I am, but Rory Adams said to me years and years ago, the top 0.1% of magicians no one's ever heard of because they're so busy that they're not posting on Facebook and they're not keeping up with stuff. They're the guys going out and doing the big corporates and they're getting 10 to 20K. I'm not at all on that level. I would love to be, but I'm not. But I am also fortunate enough to be quite busy in the peak seasons. And I don't mind the fact that people don't know where I am. And I don't think magicians need to know what I'm doing for lay people, you know?
No.
It doesn't make a difference to them. I do love it when magicians come to our show and we had a few come to our show this year and they said, I remember your trick with a sugar cube. Like, how has this happened? But it's great. You're right. It's a huge career switch, but it's the best one in the world. I don't know. I just love performing now. I think I just fell in love with it. It's great. You know, creating is great as well, but when you can actually see people's, smiles on people's faces, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
I agree. So here's a question for you.
All right.
Do you have any advice for going out on stage? Because the amount of that's probably the number one question I got on this channel, which is I want to perform. One of two things, variation on the theme. Either I only ever do close-up magic, I want to transition to stage shows, I don't know what to do, the idea scares me, or somebody who wants to go straight on stage. I think a lot of people want to do it. I think there's a
Yeah.
misconception that, like, young magicians, for example, I think there's a misconception that all young magicians want to be close-up magicians. I don't think they do, but I don't think the advice is there for how to actually get onto stage and do it as well as you do. Do you have any advice?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it's much, much easier to get a close-up gig for the first time than it is to get a stage gig.
Yeah,
Like any magician can go to every restaurant in their town or in their city and they can say, hey, I'm going to cut my prices in half and I'll come here every week, whatever. Anyone can get a residency if you're fairly decent and you've got a bit of charisma about you. Anyone could do that. Getting a stage gig is so hard. Or I rather, rarely get booked for it. Well, I do now. I get them now, but at the time, I was rarely getting booked for stage gigs. Um, all of the comedy nights that I did in that year off, most of them were unpaid. I just did it because I wanted stage time. The only difference between someone trying to get into stage and someone that is years ahead of them is stage time. That's the only difference in how good they are on stage and the gigs they're getting. It's being in front of faces. The all the stage shows that I've done, or the vast majority of them, that are big solo shows and stuff, no one's booking me to do Drunk Magic, right? That is a show I've put on myself. So I think that the first thing to do would be to seek out places where you can perform on a stage setting. I used to, when I was a kid, I used to perform at like little charity galas and stuff like that. But actually, the best way to get stage gigs is to put them on yourself, and to, if there's a kind of gig you want to do, you have to make it, and creating your own gigs is so important. So whether it's a function room in a pub that has 30 seats and you reckon you could do a show in there, you can borrow your friend's microphone. I've done this many times. There's a function room in my town, and I've hired a microphone from a friend for a tenner for the day, plugged it into a little amp, and we've done a show there and then, and I've charged £10 for tickets. That is stage time. You're gonna put on a show, and people won't book you for stage gigs if all they see is you doing close up as well. So it's a really weird one. You have to get booked for stage stuff. You have to been doing stage for a while, but how do you get on stage in the first place? So doing comedy clubs and doing open mic nights, if that's what the route you want to go down, is great. Doing little charity shows and events as well, and just sort of getting up on stage whenever someone will let you, I think is really cool as well. Like I've done a set at like a bingo night before just to get a bit of stage time, like do top and tail, something like that, just so you're getting that time on stage. And then from there, you get your footage of you being on stage, you get your stage time, and then you can send that out to bookers or corporate bookers or whatever, and say, oh, I also do this. I can do a little stage thing if you want. But in the interest of just like sort of starting out, I think write a little show, write a little 20-minute show for yourself, do it to your friends. Start doing, if you think you want to be a comedy magician, start doing open mic nights and start doing comedy nights, because you'll be able to get stage time a lot quicker there than you would at any other place. If you live in Scotland and you want to get on stage, we run a regular magic night, and we often have newcomers come in and try out 10 minutes. We solely have that because we want more people to get on stage. So yeah, I think the best advice I can give is, if there's a kind of gig you want to do, you have to create it yourself.
That's a great advice. That's really good advice. Talking about that, when I watched your show at Newcastle, like I said,
Yeah.
incredible show, absolutely amazing. I noticed that there was obviously illusions in that show. Now, we talked at the session about this, and you said I don't really describe about myself as an illusionist, or I don't describe Insane Magic as an illusionist show. But like, there's probably more illusions in that show than some illusion acts. Like,
Yeah.
what was the reason for like bringing the illusion? And the other thing is, you do them in a very different way to I've seen them done before, which is obviously on brand. Uh, A, what was the reason for bringing illusions in? B, why do you not really consider yourself an illusionist? And C, any advice for like getting into that side of things as well? Because that's where you start to have logistical nightmares, right?
Yeah. So we do, for anyone who doesn't know, we always do about four, maybe five illusions in our show. We do probably about four illusions, and then we do quite a lot of what we would call mid-level tricks. So if your magic knowledge is good, or you might know some of these items off the shelf, things like lethal or emotion box or a chair test, stuff like that, we would describe as a mid-level effect or illusion. And then we have big illusions, like we do a soaring in half. Um, we have everything Thomas More's ever made, all that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, I like illusions. I don't think I ever really used to like illusions, and then getting into performing, I think I just love the method and the sort of kind of camp theatre surrounding illusions as well. It's so fun. I also love Tenyo, and to me, Tenyo is a small illusion.
Yeah.
So seeing these little kind of things that are just massive is great. We don't really describe ourselves as illusionists because I think that when people imagine an illusionist, they think of Hans Clock, which isn't everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They think of people with a swarm of girls around them, and we're not that. We do have an assistant in our show, and she does a lot more than just illusions. And it's made very clear that she is during the show as well. We don't want to just have her come out speak when getting spoken to. We don't want that, so we make it a very clear point. And I think the show you saw, we didn't have an assistant in it,
No, you didn't
anyways.
at all. No.
or at least not one that was visible. Um, but yeah, I think my advice to anyone wanting to do illusions would be don't, because it's a logistical nightmare. And you go from becoming a magician and rocking up with a backpack to someone that has to hire a van and hire a storage unit and then buy a van and hire out bigger venues and make sure your venues have wings and make sure your venues have the right lighting for his illusions. So yeah, if you can avoid it, do, because it is genuinely it's a logistical nightmare, as you know, right?
Oh God, yeah.
It's horrible. You turn into a you almost turn into a handy. You add so many jobs. You turn into a handyman because you have to build the illusions. You turn
Hmm.
into a courier because you have to get the illusions from A to B. Suddenly you're a lighting designer to make sure the lighting's good. So it does make the job a lot more complex. But that being said, there's also an argument to be had that if you want to do a bigger show, you have to do bigger things, which is kind of why we did it. We thought we need bigger tricks. We don't want to be those guys that do a show called Insane Magic and half of it is just card tricks on camera.
Yeah.
So I think that for us, we sort of had to, and we sort of cornered ourselves into almost doing illusions. The first illusion we bought was like a £500 cube zag, um, which was great, and we had a bit of a laugh with it, but it didn't last very long in the show. And then now we're doing the sort of upper end stuff. We're working on a laser axe and stuff like that, which I never thought in my life I'd do. But you sort of just you sort of almost steer yourself in a path you think your audience would enjoy.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And going back to what you said about your one of your goals being you'd like to see Insane Magic being like a Champions of Magic. I think if you're trying to sell a show at that level, I think venues like it if you've got the bigger stuff as part of the act as well, like a lot of the
Yeah,
time.
I think they expect to see a bit of production certainly behind it, and quite an easy way to do that is to come up with a bunch of boxes, right? Like to
Yeah.
them, that screams it's a big show. Don't get me wrong, I've also seen many bad illusionists, and I think what that comes down to is when someone spends a lot of money on a trick, they feel like they have to make it work. We're quite good at if we start doing a trick and it doesn't work, no matter how much it was, no matter how big it is, no matter how much we think it's amazing, we will just cut it if it's not getting a reaction we want. Um, and we also we don't drag out our illusions. We don't think, oh well, because we spent 5 grand on this, it needs to be 20 minutes long, right? There's none of that in our show. I mean, you've seen us do Wrapped, right, by Thomas More. That's
Yeah.
been and gone in like 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think I quite like our routine, but that took us, maybe 30 or 40 shows to understand how we could perform it. And we were there's been quite a few tricks where we've been inches away from just cutting the effects completely.
Wow.
Um, and then we've maybe like rethought it and worked out a new thing. But yeah, I do like illusions. I do like them now. We're working on some really cool stuff. We're constantly having stuff built for us as well. I do like them.
Oh, that's amazing. That's brilliant. Here's a question for you. Um, how do you find working as a trio? Because, there's been a lot of double acts in the world, not really many triple acts, not many trios, but any double act will tell you there's always I was in a double act with a guy called Russell Leeds, and it can be fiery sometimes if one person's wanting to go in one direction, one person's wanting to go in the other, and sometimes you don't see that on the surface. I mean, look at Morgan and West. Nobody would have thought in a million years that they would go their own separate ways, but now they have, and I know it was amicable, but still, there's a certain there's many advantages to working with somebody else. Like you said earlier on, you all bring your own skill sets, but then there's a lot of problems that it brings as well. And I don't want to talk about, financially and say, but how do you find working as a trio? If anybody's watching this that goes, because I'll tell you, Luke, the reason I started off in a double act with my business partner Russell was because I was scared to go on stage. And we kind of said to each other, well, if we both go on stage at the same time, we can help each other with the nerves. And that really helped me. But I mean, it does cause problems as well. So,
Yeah, I think what I will say is there's always going to be issues, right? Like we have meetings sometimes where we just talk about how we all feel, and it almost turns into a bit of a therapy session, and we all talk about where we think the company is heading, how we feel about certain things, if we feel like someone's not being as appreciated as much as they are. These happen all the time,
yeah,
and it's important to I think when you work with people in a double act or a trio or a quad act or whatever, it's important to almost wear your heart on your sleeve and not keep secrets from anyone or not keep things behind people's back. So being honest with each other is super important. I think another point is that this wasn't a show that we manufactured. It wasn't a, it's not a lineup show where we've got some big producer that said, we want a guy with tattoos, we want a guy with a beard, and a guy that's Scottish. There was none of that. We are genuinely all best mates, and we just decided to do a show together. So it sort of, this whole show grew out of love, which is the best way to start any show. Instead of trying to think, I'm gonna create the best trio. There was none of that. It was all, we're all mates. Let's do a show together. It'll be fun. We all do different stuff. Let's just do it. Um, so I think that's a really important thing, is that we are genuinely all mates. This wasn't something which had been created for the sake of it. And then, yeah, as I said, there's always going to be issues. What else is there to say? I don't really know. It's good. I like it. Oh yeah. What I would say is that I think I much prefer working in a group act than doing my solo shows, because if you come off stage, and this is a great bit of advice that might convince someone they want to do this or they don't want to do it. If you come off stage as a solo performer and you have a really good show, you've not really got anyone to celebrate with. There's no one that knows exactly how you feel. And if you have a really bad show, the same thing as well. There's no one that knows exactly how you feel. There's no one that can appreciate it as much as you can. So it gets really lonely on stage, even though you're performing to maybe thousands of people, you get quite lonely as a solo performer. Whereas when you do a group show or a double act, there is someone else or other people that have just had the exact same experience as yourself. So you have a good show, you will go celebrate after. You chat about the show, you chat about your favorite parts, you chat about funny things you've done, or you have a bad show and you talk about it and you talk about why it was bad and you talk about the things you could do differently so it doesn't happen again. And you become much more analytical. I think you grow a lot quicker as a performer because you have other people saying, you might not have realized you did this on stage, you shouldn't do that again. We record our shows and we watch them all back almost in like a cinema room, and we take notes with each other. Like things like that are much better because you've got three minds instead of just your own. And you can very easily fall into a delusion that you're amazing. Whereas if you're working with other people, they'll be, and if they are genuinely your friends and not just people, they'll be able to call you out on it and say, actually, no, you could do this better, or you did this really well, but you should add this. So I think that it's really good because you just improve so much faster. It's almost like cubing the rate in which you succeed.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you know what I loved about the show that I saw in Newcastle? Uh, One of my big pet hates when I see a double act or any sort of ensemble show is when it's right. It's kind of lazy routining in that it's billed as a double act, but it's like this guy's going to do 10 minutes. Now this guy's going to do 10 minutes. Now this guy's going to do 10 minutes. Now this guy's going to do 10 minutes. And it's like you could just do two halves each and just like
Yeah.
achieve the same thing. What I loved about your show is that you were all on stage at the same time. Every single piece involved all of you in some capacity. There wasn't a moment where it was just like, okay, we're going to go now. We're going to leave Luke on stage for 15. We'll be back in 15 minutes. And I know how hard that is. Like, is that difficult? You talk about scripting a show. That's probably one of the hardest parts where you've got three very, visible people all with their own sort of makeup and brand as part of the show and putting a cohesive routine together where you're all equally as important, right?
Yeah, I think for us, it would have been very, very easy for us to go in and just do 20 minutes each of an hour show. That would have been so easy. And the show would have been good. It would have been fine, but it wouldn't have been great. And what we thought, we were like, we don't want this to be, just three people on the bill. We want it to be a three-person production. And we've always had trouble with reviewers and funding and stuff like that because they think it is just a three-person build show. They don't understand that it's a full sort of theatre production in the way that it is. And don't get me wrong, we all still have like one solo act at least in the show. But as you will have seen, there's never more than maybe 2 or 3 minutes when just one of us is on stage.
Yeah.
One of us will always help out. We're each other's stage hands. For example, when I do my knife throwing routine, Cameron comes out and we have a bit of banter with each other during the routine because we've got the other people there. And I enjoy being on stage more when there's other people there. So why would I not bring out my friends? Why would I not want to hang out with them? So yeah, I think, and a lot of people who haven't seen the show and they ask us about it, they don't understand that actually most of the show is all three of us on stage at one point. And
Mm.
yeah, it's bloody hard finding routines that work for three people
Mm.
on stage. It's hard to find a routine where there's three of you on stage and it doesn't just feel like it's one person's trick as well. I mean, there's definitely effects where one of us will take the lead. There's illusions where one of us will take the lead or one of us has a strong point in that routine. But it's really hard finding those routines that can work with three people on stage, and it's not just yeah, it's really hard. And also the power dynamics are always hard as well. You want to make sure that everyone's kind of even, or if they're not even, weren't even in that routine is because one person is slightly more scary than the other person. But there's so many things to work out when it comes to scripting, and especially jokes as well. There's moments in the show, quite a lot of moments where someone will say a setup and I say a punchline, or vice versa. So I might say a lead up to a joke. Like there was a joke as an example. Um, there was a joke in one of our shows where I had someone pick any snack they wanted off of a list of snacks, and every show, Cameron, as he walked out, would go, "Your mum's a snack," and run off, right? Which felt so off the cuff, great line, but that also takes a lot of scripting, which also comes with an issue when people don't learn their scripts because suddenly, or if you're not completely in the zone during the show, there's been times where I don't know, for example, one of us might have been a bit hungover and we've accidentally said the punchline before the setup, which happens, and it's just part of it. So it's really hard, and it also is hard when someone doesn't remember their line as well, because the way that we remember lines is almost remembering it. You remember your line after that person's line. If you're doing a solo show and you miss out a chunk of patter, it doesn't really matter because you just pick up where you left off. If I've just said a very, very crucial part of context for this next trick that's then not finished, that could mess up the entire thing. So it's really hard. Scripting is super important. It's super important we learn our scripts and we know our scripts like the back of our hand, because if we don't, it could mess up someone else's trick or someone else's punchline, and it makes the other person look bad, which is way worse than making yourself look bad.
Yeah. So it's also having that confidence and relying on each other as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
perfect. So one more question about all of this. Obviously, being at fringe festivals is a big part of what you kind of your brand. In actual fact, I'm correct in saying that like you're the most popular magic act at the Edinburgh Fringe, right? That's not something I've made up in my head.
I don't know. I think we're definitely in the top three. There's a bit of friendly competition between us and like Ben Hart, for example. But Ben's been doing this for 10 years and Ben is
Yeah,
phenomenal. So we don't really mind that. And as I said, it's very friendly competition. There's also some other magicians that did a fringe as well. I don't know. I don't know. I think we have quite a high return rate, which is nice for
yeah,
people that come to our show every year because it's always a bit different. Um, we are definitely one of the strongest brands when it comes to magic shows at the Fringe, and we've got quite a lot of local success because Elliot and Cam are both from Edinburgh. There's a lot of people that come back because they're Scottish.
yeah.
But we are, yeah, we're one of the top three. I would say we're probably top three shows. Not to quote, don't quote me, but I think probably top three. If I had
So
to
do you
guess.
have any advice on making a success of the Fringe? Because I've interviewed a couple of different people over the years, and sometimes people say just be prepared to lose money. You're never going to make money from it. Other people have said no, you can make money from it. You can make a lot of money. Other people have said go in the free fringe. That's the way you should go. Go in the free fringe and get tips because that's going to make you the most money. Other people say, oh, it's not about making the money. You do the fringe until you've been noticed by a management company, and then you can stop doing it, and it's only a means to an end. Like, as somebody who's absolutely killing it
Yeah.
right now with these things, what's your viewpoint?
I could talk for so long about all of this, and I probably will, and you might have to cut me off at some point. There is pros and cons to absolutely everything. I think that people that go in with a mindset of just saying you will lose money at a fringe, I don't think it's the right mindset. I think you can make money at a fringe. We do make money at a fringe, as a prime example, and I've never really lost money at the fringe either with any of our productions. That's not to say that you will absolutely make a bunch of money and you'll become a millionaire after the fringe. I also think that the whole getting noticed at the fringe thing is very, very uncommon now. I think, 10 years ago, it was maybe a bit easier. You had people like Phoebe Waller-Bridge that got discovered for Fleabag. I think it's so diluted now. There's not as many producers coming, and producers that are coming are looking in different places. So I don't know if you would get discovered in the way that you think you would. And actually, we had some chats with friends. They came for the first year thinking they were going to smash it, and then they'd be on ships immediately and stuff like that. And it's just unfortunately not how it works. There's pros and cons to the free fringe and the paid fringe. For those of you that don't know, the Edinburgh Fringe is the biggest arts festival in the world, and you can either pay for tickets, you can go to a paid show, or you can go to a free show. The benefit to a free show is it's called free, but it's more of like a fair fringe show because you get to try before you buy. You watch the entire show, and then you give the performer however much you feel that show is worth. Now, whatever you give to the performer, for the most part, there's some shows that don't work the same as this. For the most part, if it's a free fringe show, they get every penny of the money you give them. When someone buys a ticket from us, I will personally see maybe £1 per ticket, maybe if I'm lucky, which is absolutely nuts. And I probably shouldn't say this, but there's so many hands out. We also like that's probably a bad example because I work in a 3-person show. We have loads of employees during the fringe. We have insane marketing costs. We have accommodation we have to pay for our employees, and we there's all of these things that we have to pay for. So that's probably a bad example. The free fringe, however, as I said, every pound, every penny that you put in their bucket, they will get. And the costs of doing a show are much lower. To talk about finances very briefly, other than your accommodation, if you were to do a free fringe show and you did it this August, it would cost you your registration fee, which you don't have to do, but I'd highly recommend it, which is about £300 or £400. Maybe a bit of marketing, some flyers and some posters, which would be a couple £100. So you can really, if you wanted to, you could go to a fringe for about £500. I wouldn't recommend that. I'd recommend you spend a bit more and you buy our lecture notes because we describe all of this in great detail on how to actually succeed at Fringe. But if you wanted to, you can go to Fringe very cheap and you can come out of it making 4 or 5 grand, which is great if you do a free Fringe. When you do the paid Fringe, getting someone to part with whatever it is, 10, 12, 14, 20 pounds before they know who you are, before they've seen you, is really difficult. It's a very difficult thing to do. It's much harder to get people in the door, and you will perform to less people doing a paid show than you would a free show. So that's the sort of toss-up and the challenges. There are differences. The paid venues tend to be a lot better than the free venues. The free venues tend to be the back room of a curry house or the function room of a pub, whereas your paid venues have a lighting setup. You might have a radio mic. You might pay extra for it, but there's an actual technician there with a tech booth. So you kind of, I guess, get what you pay for. And depending on your show, like my solo show, Insane Magic also, for example, we just could not do in a free Fringe venue. The show wouldn't work there. And also we do make more money doing it through the paid Fringe. And we know how much we have to spend on marketing because we see the ticket sales and stuff. It's the only way that our show could work. Anyways, so that's the free Fringe, paid Fringe thing. Accommodation can be really expensive. It can also be quite affordable. I paid last year, I didn't have a flat and I needed to pay for accommodation. My accommodation was £1,200 for the month, which I think for a festival is pretty good.
Not bad at all.
Like that, I think that's, I pay more for my rent in this flat now, so it's not bad. And then what was the other thing? Oh, yes. Oh, this is something I should mention. Call your show what it is, right? Give your show a name. That is what the show, that is what the show is. For example, Insane Magic, you know exactly what you're going to see. Drunk Magic takes a bit of thought, but you know exactly what you're going to see. If you call your show Mind Dust or Mental Shenanigans, no one's got a clue what they're going into. And when you're flicking through that program, you want a title that jumps out at people and that people understand straight away. I am always amazed by the amount of magic shows that don't have magic, the word magic in the title, or mind reading, or a magical word like abracadabra or something like that. I'm always genuinely amazed by that. So calling your show what it is, deciding also why you're doing a Fringe is really important. Are you doing it because you think it's going to be a really good moneymaker? Because it's probably not. You might make a bit of money out of it, but you could also lose a lot of money out of it. But if you want to do a show, if you want to work on a show and you want to get a show by the end of it, then it can be seen as an investment on your show. Let's say you lost £2,000 whilst you did the Fringe. You haven't lost that £2,000. You've spent £2,000 on honing in a show and having the luxury to perform your show to audiences 25 times in a row and having that 25 hours of flight time, which is so hard to come by. So you have to really think about why you want to do it on top of everything else. but yeah, there's a difference between a few things. And if anyone has any more questions on the fringe, I will more than happily let you hire me for a consultancy call and I can explain it. Uh,
That sounds great. And they can pick up your lecture notes as well. That is a
Yeah,
thing that can happen.
the Insane Magic lecture notes are available. It's called The Secrets of Insane Magic, and I think they're available through Murphy, so all magic shops will be able to get them in for you. And it explains everything about the Fringe Festival. So to the point where I talk about the speech which I would give at the end of a free Fringe show, and genuinely, that speech I've given people has doubled the money they take after a show just from learning that. So like
Wow.
it's worth its weight in gold. We also explain a few stage routines in it as well, which are really fun. So yeah, but if you are interested in the fringe, that's the best place to start. Me and Cameron at some point, my business partner Cameron and flatmate who's not in right now, we're going to do at some point like an actual course or a workshop on how to get started at the fringe because I think it is such people see it as such a bloodbath. They don't know where to start. So we want to sort of make a introductory course on how to do it. But yeah, I'm always happy to
That's
answer any
really
questions
great
about stuff like
advice.
that.
That's really great advice. It really is. And that brings us full circle because all the time that we've been talking about you being a performer and you transitioning into performing, you've kind of stepped away from the community. You've stepped away from creating. Although the Visual Magic Store, your company, is still being running, it's not been your
Yeah.
priority. And obviously, you've written that wonderful book that was great, and you've bought tricks out. In fact, you teamed up with Elliot Bibby and bought a couple of things out with Elliot that was truly wonderful. I love the bottle opener thing. That was great. So you've done a few bits and pieces. You've kind of kept your name out there, but it's fair to say that over the last few years, that's not really been your focus. Would you agree with that, Luke?
Yeah, 100%. I think I definitely dived in sort of head first with the performing and set that as my
Hmm.
as my goal. What's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah,
That's what I've been working on. Anyways,
yeah.
you know what I mean.
The reason I ask is because at Blackpool this year, even though you're not going to be there, you're going to be in Adelaide.
Hey.
You're going to be at the Fringe in Adelaide. You've got a couple of routines coming out. And I want to talk about both of those routines, but it kind of confuses me because anybody who's a fan of your material, that was a member of your membership or has bought your stuff through Visual Magic Store, read your book, they'll know that everything that you've published up until this point has been a very specific, very particular. It's been very visual, very quick, very social media friendly. And now you've got two things coming out at Blackpool. Both of them I would describe as performance pieces. It's not really something that you do
Yeah.
on social media. They're both performance pieces. So my question is, how come you've decided to release these now? And more importantly, like I know, for example, we'll talk about the Drink Act first of all. I know that this has been a big part of your show for so long. And we've talked about how one of the most important things as a performer is coming up with unique pieces. And why would you take something that is truly amazing? And I know this because I've already seen you and perform this and talk to you about this. Why would you now bring this out as a product and say, hey, everybody can do this? I'm giving permission to everyone to do it.
That is a really good question, which I ask myself every day. I don't really know. I don't know. I've been performing, as you know, for like a little while, not that long, but whatever, 4 years or so, 4 or 5 years. And the Drink Act has been what we've always, me and my friends have always called a Drink Act. I've been working on for a very long time. Um, there's a video of me doing a similar version to this act, probably the first ever version of this act, genuinely 11 years ago. I was 12 years old doing it at some like charity gala. When you buy a trick on a tutorial, it has you'll see it eventually. But in the tutorial, there's a video of me doing this like over 10 years ago. So I've been working on a trick for absolutely ages. It's been in almost every one of my shows. But I say that the narrative of the trick has been the same. The idea of people thinking of drinks and I tell them what drinks they're thinking of. That is the best way to describe the drink act. Um, Cameron, my business partner, came up with a very, very clever kind of new presentation for him. And he showed me the idea he had, which was these new cocktail menus, which he designed. He showed me these, and I went, "That is actually just the ultimate version of this act." Like I'd been working on it. I kind of change out the method every year or so, trying to find this ultimate version of it. And he showed me this, and I was like, that is annoyingly the best version of the act. It is fast-paced mind reading. You do 7 different mentalism reveals in a span of 10 minutes. Um, well, you could do it in 5 minutes if you wanted to. It takes me 10 minutes because I'm quite funny. But but yeah, so he presented this sort of new method for the act. Um, we started doing it, realized it was amazing, and then I'd been performing a version of the act for such a long time that I'm like kind of ready to retire the act anyways. Everyone at Fringe has seen me do this. Everyone in Edinburgh has seen me do this at comedy clubs and cabaret bars and stuff like that. So I'm kind of ready to retire the act anyways. And also, we looked at it and we are like, this does make a really good product, and anyone can do this. So I think I'm sort of ready to let the idea of the act go. Um, and as I said, Cameron's created such an amazing, uh, almost a Swiss Army knife of mind reading techniques he's built into these menus. So yeah, he did a really good job with it, and I was kind of happy to do a collaborative project with him.
And I can't believe how cheap it is. Like you're
Yeah,
effectively getting like a 7 minute, 5 to 7 minute, 5 to 8 minute stand-up routine that has visual productions, it's mentalism, it's magic, it's got a kicker ending that people don't see coming. It's really bloody clever. It involves the whole audience like a tossed out deck, but not. It's different to anything I've seen before. It's topical, it's amazing. I can't believe you've done it so cheap, especially with how good the props are that you get with it.
yeah. I don't know. We thought a lot about the pricing because we weren't sure. I don't know if people understand that it's an act. I have this constant fear that when someone opens a magic trick, they're going to look at it and go, "Is that it?" Because they see the method. I think this is not that stuff you get with this is great, but I think you're buying. I think people need to remember you're buying the act, and if you get use out of this act, if you put it into your show, this act is worth tenfold at the very minimum what we're charging for it. Um, if I ask someone to, or if someone asked me if they could buy the act off of me before releasing it to the magic industry, it would have cost about 10 to 20 times as much for me to give the permission to one person to do this. Um, but with magic, we want to see people doing it, I guess. I saw Cameron do it for the first time at a comedy club the other night at our magic night. He was like, I'm gonna do a drink act because he hadn't really performed it on stage. He performed it on chips, but I'd never seen him do it. And it was kind of funny seeing him like do some of the jokes, which I've been doing for like 4 or 5 years. But he did it great. It was great. He did it really well. And it'll be on a trailer as well, the footage of him doing it, which is really interesting. I am kind of nervous to see people performing this act because it's like my baby and has been for the last few years. But no, I think we're ready to release it. But I agree. I think if you get use out of it, if you chuck it in your drawer and you don't use it, maybe it's only worth the price it is. But if you actually use this and you put it in your ship show or you put it in the top of your close-up case, and when someone asks to see something a bit bigger at a wedding or something, you do this, I think it's worth 10 times what we charge.
Absolutely. 100%. And it's coming out of Blackpool. Obviously, you're not going to be there, but it's going to be on
I
the Magic
know.
Box stand. Is that right? You're going to be having it on Magic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll
So,
be, it'll be on the Magic Box stand. I will upload a full performance video of it. It's one of those really great acts that we can actually upload a full performance video because there's nothing sneaky to see. What you see, the mind reading you see is as clean as it looks. There's
yeah,
no funny fishing. There's no wacky stuff. It's such direct mind reading that we're really proud of. So I'll upload a video somewhere and people can
and
see
if
it.
people aren't coming to Blackpool, can they get it directly from you after Blackpool, or will it be on your website?
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be on Visual Magic Store. So if you want it, go check it out. I might put it up, I don't know, somewhere around Blackpool weekend. Might be before, might be after, but keep your eyes on there. Or sign up to a mailing list and I'll send out an email when it comes out.
Brilliant. And then the other thing you're bringing out is, and
Yeah.
I've gone on record as saying this is the very best phone to impossible location I've ever seen. And that says something because I watched you at Newcastle and you guys did, the three of you did a phone to impossible location that was truly mind blowing. Like absolutely completely nuts. I don't want to talk about that because I know that's a signature piece in your stage show that's not, not going anywhere anytime soon. But this is something very, very different, right? This is something completely different. This is designed for a solo performer, not for a trio. It's incredible. I've seen it. I've seen the props, and obviously you're working with Thomas Moore on this, who is
Yeah.
just a legend. Can we talk a bit about this?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'll talk maybe briefly about the history of this. So the trick you're describing, which we do in our show, is an act that we call heist, and it's how we have opened and closed our show for the last year or so. And the trick is we hand out a box at the start of the show, which is filled to the brim with packaging peanuts, and you can see through the box. It's filled with packing peanuts. And at the end of the show, we borrow a ring, a driver's license, and a phone. They all vanish one after the other. We bring it on stage. We get someone to open it up. Inside all the packing peanuts is an envelope. Inside the envelope is a sort of concertina which unfolds with the ring, the driver's license, the phone. Without switching anything, we hand those items back to the audience members. So this routine heist has been such a labor of love, which we've been working on for the last year or so. We've done about 100 times in our show now. We absolutely love the routine, but there is an issue, which is that the props for that trick are very big. You need four people to do it. I won't say how that works, but we just do need. Well, we've done it with three people, but we need quite a lot of people to do that effect. Certainly three people. So there's a lot going on, and it's quite bulky. It packs down enough to fit in a van, but it's quite bulky for what the effect is. And it was also, you could only do it in some venues, whatever. I don't want to talk too much about the method of that
Yeah,
because it's our
yeah,
baby. But we thought it would be great if we could do a one man version of this, a one person solo version of this effect. That would be amazing because we're all Item to Impossible Location has always been one of my favorite plots. I think it's so easy to understand. Your item's here, now it isn't. It's in a tin of beans. That kind of idea of something going from A to B, teleportation is such an obvious, clear idea for people to understand. And we've always been fascinated with it. We do credit card and ice in our show and things like that. And we had this idea. We were literally on a cab on the way to a show, and we were talking about how we could scale that effect down for it to work for one person. And we had the idea: what if what do you put a phone in? What makes sense for you to put a phone in? We talked about it appearing back in an Apple box, so the way you buy it. And then we realized, well, instead of making the phone vanish, what if the phone was destroyed somehow? How would you destroy a phone? You could set fire to it, you could crush it, you could step on it, whatever, or you could drop it in water. And how would you save a phone from going in water? You'd put it in rice. So that was sort of the first idea we had, was how could you do it? So, which, again, quite a nice creative process to go through of just thinking what makes sense and what's logical. And this is much more logical than the act we do in our show. But so the effect that we're putting out with Thomas More, it's currently called Dry Phone. That is a working title. I wanted to call it No More Mr. Rice Guy. Elliot wanted to call it Rice Rice Baby. I Rice. There was loads of different names we came up with. It's currently called Dry Phone because that's the name that Thomas came up with, and that's how that works. The effect is you borrow someone's phone, you put it in a tea towel or a cloth, and they hold it over a bucket of water. You then say, don't worry, if you drop your phone, over here I have a box filled with rice. And similar to packing peanuts, there is a clear box hanging from a stand or from the ceiling filled to the brim with rice. You then say, effectively, they drop it in there. However you want to do that. I do a funny line where I say, just let go of all your problems, including your phone. You hate that phone. Just let it go. And then they do it. And you're like, oh, no, I didn't mean to actually let it go. Or you could do a little on the count of three gag or whatever. And
yeah.
whatever happens, they drop their phone into water. They then look for their phone and it completely has vanished. Their phone splashed, but it's vanished. You then ask one of their friends, to call their phone. And through the rice, you see a slight glow from their phone. You then pull a cork, a little stopper in the bottom of it. The rice floods out in the most beautiful way onto the stage, into a bucket, whatever you want. It just starts flooding out. And as it starts flooding out, you see their phone is not only inside the rice, it's inside a locked box inside the box of rice. You then lift up a front panel, take off that box, hand it to the spectator. They undo the rubber bands, lift off the top, and inside is their phone. So it's a really nice one-person phone to a possible location. It can be done in as short as 4 minutes or as long as you want, really. You could do a roulette routine or something like that. And you could stretch it out to 10, 15 if you wanted to. But yeah, it's a really nice act. fits into a carry-on suitcase. But if you're touring, it also comes, when you buy it, it comes flight cased with everything you need to do. It comes with the stand adapter. It comes with, it doesn't come with the rice, but it comes with the folding up bucket of water, which I didn't even know you could make, but apparently you can. The bowl to catch the rice, I think, might come with it. I'm not too sure exactly what comes with it, but you get everything you need to do a routine straight out of the box, all
which is
in a nice
incredible.
flight case thing.
And
Yeah, which is great.
what's so wonderful about it is the routining just makes complete sense. Everything about it makes sense. And without giving too much away, the load is lightning fast. Like, I mean, obviously there's a load, the load is ridiculously fast and can be done
Yeah,
right
no, I
in
mean,
full view of the audience.
yeah, it's not in full view, and I think the nice part is everything method wise is done before the trick in the audience eyes has even started,
Yeah.
which means that what I mean by that is the phone is already in the place it should be before this phone has vanished, which
Yeah.
is a bit of a mind warp, but it makes sense if you kind of understand what I'm saying. Um, but as a performer, that's a really nice place to be in. You get all of your admin done in the first 20 seconds. When they've come up on stage, you have a brief chat with them, you sort everything out, and then the rest you can focus on performing because you've done all the dirty work already. So the rest is you clowning around, making your jokes, doing your fun stuff. And it's such a nice, freeing feeling as a performer to know that all of the work is already done and you can now solely focus on that performing.
That's great. That's absolutely amazing. I'm the first customer. I think it was,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I've gone on record as saying that like this is probably going to be, if this doesn't come into contention for Trick of the Year. I know we're very early on in the year. I'll be surprised because it's very rare that you see something come out, at least in my opinion, where it's such a working routine. You can just tell immediately, the minds that are attached to this with you guys and Thomas. It's just brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. I can see this going into so many people's shows. Well, I saw before I interviewed you, you put a social media post about this, and you had huge names like Paul Martin going, right, yep, that's it, done, sold, I'll have it, I'll have it. I mean, when people like that are just like going, okay,
Yeah.
that's when you know you're on the right track.
I can't believe we're the first people that have done it, to be honest. Like it's one of those things where I think a lot of people will be kicking themselves thinking, why didn't I think of that? Which I think is the best kind of thing. But yeah, so that's a collaborative project. So all the boys from Insane Magic, we all worked on that. So myself, Elliot Bibby, Cameron Gibson, we approached Thomas More with it because we get all of our stuff made by Thomas More that we use in the show because we can build stuff and we can build prototypes for stuff, but he's the main man when we
Yeah.
have an idea to actually get these custom built things made. We approached him with it and he was like, yeah, I can make this. And I remember he sent us a photo and we are like, okay, this is exactly what we wanted. So we're super chuffed with it. We can't wait to start performing it. We all sort of wanted some kind of variation on the high stacks that we do that we can perform on our ships. So we've all got one, which is great, and we can do them in our solo shows when we're away. Um, but yeah, it's really interesting. I think it's such a nice. There's so many nice visually beautiful theatrical moments in it. And what I mean by that is there's so many elements going on, and everything is a nice photo moment in this effect. Firstly, it fills the stage. No matter what size stage you're on, you have the water on one side, you have the rice on the other side, and it really sets almost these wings for you to sort of fly on at either side of the stage, which is amazing. The the splash of the phone is such a nice visual. Using water, as you know, with like sands of the desert and stuff, is always nice in any
Yeah.
kind of stage piece. So you get that nice element, and it feels like such a fair way to make an item vanish because it's getting destroyed before it gets vanished. It's a logical vanish. The rice falling out of the box is such a nice sand timer sort of thing. The glow of the phone going through it, the audio of you hearing that phone call, as long as their phone isn't on silent, the audio of you hearing the phone call on the other side of the room is such an amazing moment as well. The routine is just packed with these nice theatrical moments. I truly believe that this is a reputation maker. Um, so yeah, I hope people enjoy it. We're really proud of it. So yeah, I hope people get their money's worth with it.
Oh, they absolutely will. And again, this is going to be released at Blackpool. You're not going to
Yeah.
be there, obviously, but it is going to be on Thomas Moore's stand. Um,
Yeah. Thomas will be spilling rice out all day long.
and, and
Um,
and he's offering a discount to Blackpool, right? If you order it at Blackpool, which is when it's officially launched, they will get a discounted price compared to what it'll be when it comes out, I
yeah,
believe.
I think it's about £250 off,
I
which
mean,
is
that's
great.
great.
And that is good. I always feel this way about when you find out like an amount discounted, you always think, oh, okay, it's probably going to be quite expensive. I think this trick is too cheap, personally. I think,
I think you're insane. Pardon the pun.
yeah,
I really do. I think this is, I mean, I thought you were a bit insane with the Drink Act, but this, like,
yeah,
this should be priced, in my opinion, at around about the same level that you'd price a master prediction system at. I think
yeah, I
this should
agree.
be like a
I think
three or a
two,
four
two or
grand
two and a
prop.
half. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think so. I had a price in mind for how much I thought this was going to be, um, which was about 2.5 grand. That was just what I had told myself it was going to cost, and that's what we had all discussed it was going to cost. And then I remember bumping into Thomas at a session, and I saw the price. I was like, "What are you talking about?" And it was half the price I told everyone, which is good for them because people got a discount. But yeah, if you go to Blackpool, pick it up. If not, you can get it on a website. Um, it's still an extremely good price on a website. So
Yeah.
I still think it's extremely fair. You are getting a mid-scale act that can go into any illusion show really nicely. I think it will become the finale to a lot of people's shows.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a really nice act. Again, it's an act, right? It can you can do it in an arena if you wanted to. So yeah, I hope people enjoy it, and it packs down to nothing as well, which is amazing.
Which is perfect. Absolutely
Yeah,
perfect. Brilliant. And I'm going to ask you one last question before we
yeah,
wrap this up, because this has been fantastic. And it's great to see you're doing something that you love so much. One final question. I asked this in our last interview. I said, "What's next?" And you were like, "I just want to create. I just want to be a consultant." What's next for you? You've achieved so much. Both you and everyone else in Insane Magic have achieved so much. And I know you're ridiculously young and you've got so much more. And you're so ambitious. And the rest of the guys that you work with are so ambitious as well. But you seem to have your, so much going on. You do your solo shows, you do comedy clubs, you do ships, you do insane magic. You travel the world with insane magic. You're creating magic. You're releasing magic. The visual magic store, it's still there and it's still a strong brand. Like, are there any like? Is there anything that you want to achieve that you haven't achieved yet? Like, are we looking at Britain's Got Talent in the future or any of the Got Talent shows? Because you're so unique, I think you'd stand out on something like that, especially as a trio. Like, what else are you wanting to do?
yeah. Maybe. I mean, we're always open to do those kinds of things. I would love for us to have a TV show of some kind. I think when people see our show, one of the main things they say about us isn't necessarily the magic in it, although it's good. It's the relationship we have with each other on stage, because that's the thing that you can't buy. You can't engineer that, if that
Yeah,
makes sense. So I would love to do some kind of project with the boys where we get to do a TV show or something, or a YouTube show or whatever. But it wouldn't be like a street magic show. I don't know what the TV show would be, and I wouldn't want it to be Impractical Jokers of Magic because every Tom, Dick, and Harry has done that now. I don't understand what it would be yet, but I would love for us to do something where we can sort of film each other and people get to see how fun we are in day-to-day life.
that sounds amazing. That sounds, look, whatever it is that you end up doing, I know that you're going to continue to be very successful doing it. Luke, I know you're busy. I know you're traveling around all over the UK, all over the world, and I just want to say congratulations on your success. And yeah, it's amazing. Where can people see, before we sign this off, where can people see you? Like, is there a website where they can see tour dates for Insane Magic? I know that you do conventions and lectures occasionally. Is there somewhere where we can keep track of everything that you guys are up to?
Yeah, the best thing to do is to follow us on social media. So follow me at Luke Ozy and follow Insane Magic, which is Insane Magic Show. There is, I think, a mailing list somewhere on the website or something. Um, I do a bunch of shows. We do Underground Magic as well, which is our regular magic show in Edinburgh. So if you're ever in Edinburgh, the chances are there's probably a magic show on, or one of us will be up to something. So if you're ever visiting the city or Glasgow or anywhere like that, we're probably doing something. I am looking to do more lectures. I want to get into it. I've got an amazing idea for a lecture, which I am starting. I've got a couple booked in for June. If anyone listening is in touch with clubs and you'd like me to do this lecture, which is more focused on the stage kind of stuff, but also I do a lot of the close up, very, very visual stuff in it as well. Send me a message on Instagram. But yeah, I think Instagram is probably the best place to see what we're up to. So at Luke Ozy or at Insane Magic Show. But thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun.
Luke, thank you so much. And guys, you've been watching this. I want you to do me a favor. Let Luke know down below what you thought of the interview. Go and leave a comment. More importantly, go check out his social media. Go check out Insane Magic. And if you get a chance to see them perform, please do so. I saw them earlier, actually end of last year, and they were phenomenal. And while you're at Blackpool, do me a favor. Go out and check out both the Dry Phone, working title, and the Drink Act. Go and check them both out because they are both amazing. But one more time, Luke, thank you so much, my friend. Really appreciate it. Guys, I'll see you again on behalf of Luke Ozy. My name's Craig, and we'll see you again right here on Magic TV.